Hey guys, welcome back to another Exotic Car Hacks video, and today we're going to be talking about Ferrari, Lamborghini, and generically, did I just say generically? Is that even a word? Is that a word, Reggie? Why are you sweating so much?
I have no idea.
Yeah, like it's like 400 degrees here. You just ran a marathon. We just came up the stairs.
Like, that's what it is.
Motherfucker.
That's what it is.
The moment you know you need to lose weight. Anyways, back to this. We're talking about allocations today, not the gym. Obviously, you can see we have some kind of gym equipment here because I'm really fat too, but I don't sweat that much. But anyways. So back to, we're talking about car allocations because there's a huge misconception in the car space that by buying a cool car, you basically get put on this magical list to get a really cool car. And so this has been something I've been dealing with a lot in my own community and the misinformation in general out there about getting allocations for cool stuff. I mean, if you look down there, for example, that Mercedes AMG GT is like 330 grand new, but it sells used for like almost 600K. So you get to this place where you go, well, how can I get that car at 330K? How can I get that Ferrari at sticker? How can I get that Lamborghini at sticker? And what do I have to do to get on these lists to get some of the cooler cars that are worth 200 to 300K more? We're going to talk about that today so that you can kind of comprehend and understand why or what is happening in the dealer world and how to get ahead of it so that you can actually play this game and not really lose all that excess money you have to pay to get the cool cars. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the core concept of allocations. So in a regular world, relationships brought in the cooler cars, right? You would buy cars, and over time you would have a relationship with your dealership. This dealership would then offer you more exclusive cars or give you first dibs on some of these cool cars. You could call, place an order almost instantly when you discover the car is new. The world we're in today, unfortunately, though, everybody wants a cool car, everybody has money, and there aren't enough cars. So the dynamics of the game have changed a little bit. The point systems are very much still alive, meaning the more cars you're buying from Ferrari, the more points you accumulate, and then the more you actually get cool stuff. But one of the misconceptions about really cool stuff at Ferrari is that most people think that it comes from your dealership, and theoretically, it does not. Actually, Ferrari's point system is so it's so on push towards dealers that it offers dealers basically only a 10 to 20% chance of picking who gets the car, and 80 to 90% chance is actually from the corporate side of things to begin with. So let's take an example of me buying, for example, an F8 and being told that if I bought a Roma or Portofino, I would be in line to basically be able to buy a 12 Competizione. So the main concept would be that I would be able to buy this really cool car that'll probably be worth 2 times its MSRP if I was to buy these other cars. And if I look at the market, I go, okay, I'll lose a little bit here, but I'll get to a really cool car. It makes sense. The problem, though, is that the core concept is quite simple. When you buy a ton of cars, you accumulate points. They're really special cars, like the SP and Enzos and the LaFerraris of the world. Those only come from corporate, meaning like corporate looks at the list of people who technically have the right points and say, hey, dealer one, these are the people that qualify in your pool of cars to get a car to. But you're only getting one car and you have 6 people in that pool. So you have to pick basically who in that pool is going to be getting one from you. And that's where the dealer basically gets to pick. But it still doesn't change the fact that the dealer can't just pick anybody anywhere because they like you. So this misconception occurs. Now, let's assume, for example, you're competing against a guy like me, right? So me and my buddy together buy basically like 20 to 30 cars, right? And we bought a ton of everything, multiples of everything, and we have the highest points possible. And they told you that by getting a Roma, for example, you were going to be on a cool list for 812 Competizione. Now, let's assume, for example, this dealership has an allocation of 6 Competizione coupes and maybe 1 Spider. Well, maybe that decision isn't made at corporate, but who realistically do you think is going to get a call if there's 30 of me and there's 600 of you? Well, theoretically, if there aren't enough even cars to get the 30 to people like me, then why would they even start calling people like you? So the point that I'm trying to make is that when you walk into a dealership and are told that basically buying a Roma or a Portofino is going to get you into a really cool car, you're misunderstanding what that cool car is. They're basically playing a gradual game with you, getting you from a Roma, a Portofino to an F8, eventually from an F8 to an SF90, and so on and so forth. They are not really getting you into the hard-to-get limited edition cars just because you made one purchase. The other thing that you also have to understand is it isn't something that this is just the way dealers are. We as individuals and as a society have come to not trust dealerships, right? We don't, because basically they sell cars they don't check. We teach all this in Exotic Car Hacks and how they're basically poisoning the integrity of the game by basically trying to just milk as much money as possible without actually paying attention to things that matter, like the quality of the cars they sell, are they really clean, are there any hidden fees, things that we're seeing across the board. That doesn't mean they aren't honest dealers, but let's face it, majority of dealers are basically, horseshit. So you have this dynamic of people that don't trust. Then you have the dynamics of salespeople that keep moving dealership to dealership who really don't have the longevity of relationships. So all of these things come to play, and many of you walk into a dealership and are told that if you buy a Roma, you get a special car, and you trust that instantly. This is no different than actually trusting that putting a deposit on a car guarantees you that that car will be available to you at MSRP. I mean, I can tell you about maybe 100 people off the top of my head who have thought that they were putting a deposit on a G63 or on an AMG GT Black Series, and that meant they were entitled to the car at sticker. When by the time the car came, there was a markup on it of 50K, 30K, 20K, which was still better than current market value, but nonetheless, something that was truly out of left field. They waited 6 months for this car, and when it finally arrived, they were told they have to pay more for something they ordered. I mean, imagine if you basically went to buy a pizza and were told that it was $12, but by the time it came out of the oven, even though it was made for you with all your ingredients, it was now $39. You would be like, well, what the hell is wrong with you, right? So the thing is that this is basically what's happening in the car world right now. And there are better dealers than others. So far, Lamborghini has been very good to respect their MSRP pricing when promised to buyers. And, Ferrari has had hit or miss depending on the dealership you use. But for the majority of times, those brands have done well because they understand the longevity of long-term relationships. Mercedes has done a horrible job at this, particularly because as a company, this was really the first time where their products were so in demand that they had these insane markups on car. BMW just shitted on that entire idea of relationship building to junk, so that's completely worthless. If you try to buy an M5 Competizione, some idiot down the street at BMW Del Rey told me that they were asking 70K over on a BMW M5 competition when you could have bought one anywhere in the country for 10 over or 20 over by just making a few calls. So, that review coming soon on that car as well once it's here. But I'm just trying to get you to understand that one of the things dealers do is they're very good at making you believe something and getting you to buy into it. So you as an individual have to protect yourself to ensure you don't fall victim to a sales guy trying to make his commission, and instead focus on what matters the most, which is your ability to build a relationship with someone worthy and kind of carry that on. Because the reality is markets go up, markets go down, but what happens in high markets is that everybody goes crazy for the money, but in low markets, the real relationship sustains. So here's my take for you if you want to build a relationship with Ferrari or Lamborghini. Be authentic, be honest, and don't be a car flipper, plain and simple. You can absolutely make money on cars, but don't buy cars with the sole intention of selling them. Buy cars, enjoy them, and when you're bored, sell them a year later, 2 years later, whatever. Like dealerships and brands understand that people get bored of cars and they upgrade or they change. But they also understand that there's a pool of people out there who are only interested in taking the market and putting it back on the reseller market and basically just making money off the product, not actually enjoying it and putting it out there. Ford did a really good job at stopping those people with the new Ford GT allocations and who gets one and what kind of premium gets paid or who gets sued. But if you start thinking about some of these other not as special cars, because Ford only makes a hypercar every like 10, 15 years, the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you don't want a Ferrari Roma, don't buy a Ferrari Roma. If you don't want a Portofino, don't buy a Portofino. Get to a relationship with a dealer who will give you first an F8 or something you really want, even if it's not an SF90, and work your way up to that, right? And then also just understand that if you're buying cars in the secondary market, that's okay too. Not every car you buy has to be a great exactly at MSRP to make sense. Like the SF90 I bought, I paid well over 100 over MSRP. Does that matter? No, not at all. Why? Because the car will bring more than that by the time it's done. So in a way, just because I gave up some of the profit to someone else does not mean it was a bad financial decision. These are the things you have to understand, that you have to look at each car based on what it's doing in the market, and that's about it. And you have to start building real, authentic, long-term relationships for cars you want, because you're going to be driving them for a little bit and building that relationship with the dealership. Also, the dealership sometimes will do this with people, where if you do bring the cars back to them and you let them make the profit, they're more likely to give you the next allocation. This is something they do for their drivers, the people that like driving, that aren't reselling the cars. And as long as you build that relationship with them, they will do that. Now, personally, I don't like that, because I like my relationships to be beneficial to me as much as they are to them when they make their profit. I don't believe that they should make all the money on a car once they've made their money on a car. And I think the end user should have some kind of gain to gain from that. So if dealers are asking you to do that, it's a personal decision if you want to or not want to deal with the ins and outs of doing that. But personally, again, great relationships, clear and transparent relationships with longevity will typically do best. And that's the way you have to look at the point system. Now, in addition to that, I would also note that you may not realize this, but your dealer could also add other cars you may have in the pot that are not related to that dealership or to that brand, to show that you're a real car collector. So one of the ways that we basically were able to kind of get higher up on the list was by providing Ferrari with a list of other cars. As you can see, plenty of cars down here that are not Ferraris, to add to our collection of cars on their system, showing that we obviously are car collectors, and that gives us a lot more credibility for future hypercars and so on and so forth. So this is what I wanted to cover with you. Hopefully you found this helpful. Again, remember, this is the type of information we find at Exotic Car Hacks, and where we as a community basically help one another become better car hackers. So click the link in the description, join us during the holiday sale, because it's an incredible opportunity to join the greatest exotic car community ever made, and more importantly, the largest one currently in existence that helps people get in and out of exotics without losing any money. So click the link and join us there. And of course, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let me know, did you ever get a cool car just by walking in without having a previous relationship? I'd love to hear it. Catch you guys on the next one.